Discover 10 incredible morning speeches that will transform your life through touching gratitude. In the small town of Willow Creek, the air was thick with a sense of longing and hope, hanging like mist over the quiet morning streets. But that morning, something else crackled in the atmosphere, the eager anticipation of possibility. Sarah Mullins, a humble high school teacher and devoted mother of two, knew that for a change to take root, she had to plant the seeds of appreciation and connection. Just weeks earlier, she had learned of Mr. Jenkins' decision to step down from his cherished morning speeches. For years, his words had painted the town with vibrant hues of gratitude, binding the community together like a warm, comforting quilt. But now, he felt it was time for a new voice, a revitalization in his tradition. Driven by her belief in kindness and resilience, Sarah approached him with a proposal to take over these speeches. As she stood at her kitchen table that night, her hands trembling with excitement and fear, Sarah envisioned the speeches as a platform to mend the growing divide between the rich and the struggling. She could feel a fire igniting within. But whispers soon clouded her dream, with a select group of wealthy community leaders scoffing at the idea of a struggling single mother leading such an important tradition. What could she possibly know about gratitude? They murmured. Their doubt only fanned the flames of Sarah's determination to show that anyone, regardless of their situation, could inspire change. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as she dove deeper into organizing her first event, chaos spun her world off balance. Her car gave out in the tiresome grocery store parking lot, and her children caught a nasty cold that left her sleepless and frayed. However, in the eye of the storm, Sarah discovered pockets of support, neighbors and friends who believed in her tenacity, who volunteered to help in any way they could. As the date approached, she felt her ambition blossom. But betrayal lurked where she least expected it. Rumors swirled, cutting into her confidence. The elite members of the community, their whispers growing louder, began to challenge her credibility in subtle ways, questioning her capability to deliver wisdom. Still, Sarah pushed through her self-doubt. Finally, the day arrived, the town's annual fair where she would speak before the community. As she took the stage, her heart raced, unsure if she could overcome the turmoil within her. The crowd quieted, anticipation thickening the air. With each word, she fought against the unease, baring her soul to them. She spoke of her struggles, her ups and downs, igniting recognition within the crowd. Emotions shifted, but just as hope surged, a familiar voice broke through, casting shadows on her moment of triumph. A wave of cold doubt washed over her as she faced an old adversary, and a hush fell over the crowd, leaving all to wonder, could this change truly happen in a town still shackled by inequality and bias? The silence hung heavy as Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. George Hawthorne, the town's most influential businessman, had a way of commanding attention without saying much at all. His piercing gaze made it clear that he was ready to dismantle her words piece by piece. "Really, Sarah?" he called out, with a smirk that sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. "Do you think sharing your sad little story can actually bring change? Where's the evidence that someone like you can lead us? What do you know about the challenges we face?" Gasps echoed among the listeners. Sarah's heart sank, but something deeper ignited. You could hear the crowd's discontent brewing. Behind her, she sensed her friends urging her on, their energy feeding her resolve. She cleared her throat, pushing past the fear that threatened to consume her. "Change doesn't come from a place of privilege," she began, her voice steadying. "It comes from understanding, from recognizing the pain as well as the joy." The crowd leaned in, curious eyes urging her to continue despite George's interruption. She spoke passionately, drawing from her own life. "As a teacher, I see every day how gratitude can shift perspectives. It's not about material wealth. It's about community, about lifting one another up. Each small act, each word of kindness, it matters. Slowly, the people found their footing as her authenticity resonated with the heartbeats in the crowd. But George wasn't done. Those words sound lovely, Sarah, but you're still talking from a position of little power. You think you can heal a divide? Look around you. This town is built on generations of wealth and status. The murmurs in the crowd grew stronger, mixed with uncertainty and supporting shouts of "We believe in you, Sarah." Yet, George's words struck a chord of doubt. Was he right? Did she hold enough weight to disrupt the systemic issues that pervaded Willow Creek? With a deep, grounding breath, Sarah challenged her own apprehension. The only way to heal is to start somewhere. Why not with simple gratitude? I may not have your resources, but I have the love for my students, my children, my neighbors. Isn't that what we all crave? Connection. Understanding. She watched as the tension in the crowd began to soften. Eyes glimmered with shared experiences, nods of recognition woven into the fabric of community. From a distance, she caught the gaze of her children, their encouraging smiles wrapping her in warmth. Before she could fully bask in their support, an unexpected voice wove through the crowd. She's right. It was a timid but firm voice. It was Olivia, a senior who had often struggled with her own insecurities. If we don't start somewhere, if we don't open our hearts and minds, how can things ever get better? Sarah turned toward the girl, her heart swelling. That spark of bravery illuminated the path ahead. Other voices rose in agreement, and suddenly the arena buzzed with energy, poles of old hierarchies shifting. As laughter, tears, and applause echoed around her, Sarah felt invincible. But just as the thought of hope anchored in her heart, George stepped forward, determined to reclaim the floor. Is that what you really want, Willow Creek? His voice boomed. To follow a pipe dream led by a woman without a grasp on reality? The crowd fell silent again, uncertainty creeping back. Would they rally around her, or allow the scaffolding of society to dictate their beliefs? In that climactic moment, the real battle for Willow Creek's spirit was set to unfold. Sarah took a deep breath, gripping the podium tighter, ready to fight for the change she believed in. As George's eyes bore down on her like storm clouds, she could feel the weight of the town's collective choice hanging in the balance. But could her words truly cast away the shadows of doubt? Would the faith in her possibility be strong enough to light the way forward? Sarah stood at the podium, feeling the heat of the crowd's gaze on her, eyes wide in anticipation. George's challenge hung like a storm cloud above them. She could almost hear the heartbeats of her friends whispering encouragement behind her. Listen, she said, drawing in a shaky breath, I know I may not have the credentials or the experience that some of you hold. But I have something just as real, passion. Compassion. A spirit that believes in all of you. She searched the crowd, locking eyes with faces she knew deeply. Teachers, shopkeepers, parents, and children, they were all here, and she felt the weight of their stories in her bones. I'm not asking for money or grand gestures. I'm asking for small acts of kindness that can change this town. Each of us can do something, no matter how small. What if we each shared just one moment of gratitude each day? We could strengthen our ties, heal old wounds. That is how we can build a foundation for something beautiful. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, the tension beginning to melt. For the first time, Sarah noticed the faintest hint of hope in George's expression. Perhaps he wasn't completely closed off. The thought gave her strength. You think we can't change things? That it's too far gone? She pressed. But every journey begins with a single step. What if you started recognizing the good around you? What if you took a young person like Olivia and guided her, fostered her dreams? What if your voices joined ours in a chorus of change? Gasps, nods, and whispers of agreement fueled Sarah's courage. But she still felt the heavy presence of doubt from some in the crowd, the ever-looming specter of George's influence. None of this is easy, she acknowledged. But let us face it together. When I see the faces of my children, my students, and everyone here, I see potential. I see hope, buried under layers of fear and despair. If we just scratched the surface together, we could uncover something remarkable. Behind her, Olivia smiled softly, a quiet yet powerful reminder of the future she wanted to fight for. It ignited a blaze inside Sarah, an urgency that made her heart race. Then, George stepped closer, his shadow creeping over her like a threat. And what happens when those hopes are dashed, Sarah? When your dreams crumble against the reality of wealth and privilege? It's naive to think that soft words can mend the cracks of history. Yet Sarah stood her ground, so painfully aware of the stakes. You're right about one thing, George. Change doesn't come easy. Nothing worth having does. But I refuse to let fear dictate our future. Refuse to let it strand us in darkness when we have the power to find the light. The crowd stirred. There were nods of agreement, murmurs, and gasps of realization. They were ready to embrace her call. Just as certainty began to spread, George's voice boomed again. You still haven't answered the question, have you? What will you do when the reality slaps back harder than any kind of gratitude? At that moment, doubt trickled back like a quiet stream, gentle yet insistent. Sarah's heart pounded. What would she say to that? How could she respond? In the tension hanging palpably in the air, she felt the weight of her responsibility seem to double. All of Willow Creek was watching. She took another deep breath, reminding herself of the very reason she stepped onto this stage. The moment lingered as anticipation filled the room. Could she really handle the truth that hovered like a question mark above them all? As silence settled, she prepared to lay it all bare, knowing that the journey ahead would demand everything from them. Would they finally break free, or would they retreat into comfort once again? The answer could change everything. Sarah felt the weight of the silence pressing down. Her thoughts spun rapidly. She knew George's question demanded an answer, an honest, raw answer. How could she reach the hearts of her friends while also confronting the shadows of reality? What happens when the reality slaps back? She echoed, searching the crowd for the right words. We remember why we started this journey. We remember the moments of connection and empathy in our lives. Each of you holds a story of struggle and triumph. You've seen how community can change pain into strength. Her voice quaked with emotion. The memory of the neighborhood potluck flashed in her mind. How old Mr. Thompson had shared his experiences in the war, and how those stories had woven threads of understanding through generations. It was in that sharing, that vulnerability, where true healing began. The reality may hit hard, she continued, gathering strength from Olivia's smile. But if we embrace our stories and share them, we can soften that blow together. We need to rise as one, shore up each other's defenses with kindness and respect. We all know how to stand together during the hard times. Let us turn that strength into something positive. A few people in the front nodded, their eyes gleaming. Sarah could see it now, hope sparking in some and awakening in others. A flicker of connection. She took a step forward, her pulse racing, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Just look at Olivia. She shouldn't have to fight alone. If one of our own is hurting, then we all hurt. We won't fix it overnight, but we can begin today. We must share the weight together. The room vibrated with murmurs of agreement. Sarah's heartbeat drummed in her ears, she had them leaning in, engaged. The question still loomed over her, but the fear of it began to ebb. George stood there, frowning, still skeptical, but the crowd responded differently now. Was his confidence eroding just a little? And yes, Sarah continued, raising her hand for silence, there will be moments of doubt and setback. We may trip, we may stumble. But remember what we're building together. Imagine our children thriving in a connected community, where everyone has someone to lift them up. Doesn't that feel like a reason worth fighting for? More voices joined in, some calling out words of encouragement. Sarah heard phrases like "I believe in us." And we can do this. The energy coursed through her, a tangible force that coursed through the entire hall. George's voice broke through again, but this time with less power. And when that dream falters? He questioned, scrambling to regain his footing. Then we'll gather again. We'll talk, we'll brainstorm, we'll be there for each other. That's what community is about. It's about leaning on one another when times get tough. Sarah shot back, her voice unwavering. The atmosphere was electric, people were rising to their feet, the early flickers of movement spreading like wildfire. Amidst the rising energy, she could almost feel the encroaching warmth of possibility. Let's make it our mission, friends. To be a beacon of hope and change. Will you join me? Her voice rang out, echoing in the corners of the room. A wave of cheers rose, filling Sarah with an overwhelming rush of joy. George, for the first time, appeared taken aback, his authoritative stance wavering amidst the signs of newfound unity. As the crowd erupted in applause and affirmations, Sarah felt tears stinging her eyes. But then, in that electrifying moment of connection, a sudden thought gripped her heart. What if they did apply themselves, only to face larger obstacles than they could comprehend? For a brief instant, doubt flickered. Would their efforts truly be enough to face a world hell-bent against them? Just as the applause began to fade, she aimed her final words at both George and the crowd. Let us be ready. Because the journey is only beginning. But even as her heart soared, she couldn't shake the feeling that dark clouds lingered on the horizon, waiting to see if this newfound hope would weather the storms ahead. What challenges awaited them on this fragile path of change? Sarah stepped back from the podium, her chest heaving with a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. The cheers faded, replaced by the hum of chatter reverberating through the room. People were now mingling, smiles breaking across faces that moments before had been filled with uncertainty. It was a beautiful sight, but amidst the laughter, a knot tightened in her stomach. Did you see that? Olivia's voice broke into her thoughts. She beamed, bouncing on her toes as if the energy could lift her off the ground. You were incredible. They believe in us. Let us hope they can hold on to that belief when the going gets tough, Sarah replied, her smile wavering. She felt a twinge of guilt for darkening the moment, but uncertainty clawed at her insides. Hey, don't look like you're about to burst our bubble, Olivia said, nudging her playfully. We're finally doing something. This community needs you, and you've done the hard part. The rest will come together. I want to believe that. I really do, Sarah said quietly, glancing at George, who stood at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed and face unreadable. It was more than just trust in their mission now, it was about hope. Hope that their intentions would transform into real change and hope that they could sustain it. As the crowd began to dissipate, small groups formed, chatting animatedly. Eager faces leaned in, exchanging ideas about future meetings, committees, and collaborative projects. It filled Sarah with warmth to see passion sparking connections, but a flicker of doubt still nagged at her heart. What next, Sarah? A voice cut through her thoughts. It was Mark, a longtime resident whose quiet strength had always inspired her. I guess we keep talking, she replied, feeling the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. We figure out what we need, where we can start. And what do we do when the doubts come back? George finally interjected, striding toward them, his tone more accommodating than confrontational now. Then we remind each other why we're standing here, Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for each other. We need to lift each other up. A bunch of feel-good talk. 1T change the issues we face, George challenged, but there was a hint of newfound respect in his eyes. That's where you're wrong, Sarah shot back, surprising even herself. Every great movement started with a dream grounded in belief. We need that belief if we want to take action. If we can trust one another, we can face anything together. We're building a community and that takes time. The crowd began to stir again, and a few voices rose in agreement. George nodded slowly, a shift in his demeanor that Sarah noted with cautious hope. Just be ready for bumps in the road, okay? George said finally, a small smile beginning to crack his serious facade. People are going to test our resolve. And we'll be ready, Sarah replied, feeling a surge of defiance. Together. As the night wore on, Sarah felt the bond forming, stronger than she had ever anticipated. Laughter echoed off the walls, a sweet melody of shared dreams and ambitions. She felt lighter, as if the weight pressing against her chest had begun to lift, but in the back of her mind, shadows stirred. What would happen when reality confronted them? What if not everyone was as hopeful as they were? The questions buzzed around her, but she pushed past them, unwilling to spoil the moment. Later that night, as the last clusters of friends departed, Sarah lingered, lost in her thoughts. She stared at the empty hall, imagining what could be born from all their shared dreams. "Hey, Sarah," Olivia called, breaking her reverie. "Ready for tomorrow?" "For anything," Sarah said, though her heart fluttered with uncertainty. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, a gust blew through the trees, rustling the leaves. A chill danced down Sarah's spine. She wondered if the winds of change were already gathering strength. "Just remember," Olivia stopped, studying Sarah closely. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." Sarah took a deep breath, heart pounding. What if it's more than we imagined? With those words hanging in the air, they walked into the night, both uncertain about what lay ahead but fueled by the promise of unity. And little did they know, the next challenge was already creeping closer, keen to test their resolve. The morning sun spilled through the windows, casting warm light across the room where Sarah and Olivia had gathered with a few other community members. The air was charged with anticipation, buzzing with the excitement of possibility. As they set chairs in a circle, Sarah felt a resurgence of hope. This was the moment to solidify their vision, to let that initial spark of belief ignite into something tangible. "Okay, everyone, thanks for coming," Sarah started, her voice steady, though her heart raced. She noted the varied expressions around her, curiosity mixed with skepticism, hope intertwined with doubt. "Today, we're going to put our ideas together. I know we've talked a lot about what we want, but let us translate that into a plan. Have you seen the flyer?" Mark asked, rocking slightly in his chair. "The one about the committee for local events. People are excited to get involved." Olivia nodded enthusiastically. "We need fun activities to get others on board. Everyone loves a block party, right? We could even have a talent show." A wave of laughter filled the room, easing the tension. People began to dream louder, sharing humorous hypotheticals about what talents might emerge. "Maybe I'll juggle," George said, rolling his eyes at the sudden laughter from his friends, but a small grin peeked through. As the conversation flowed, Sarah felt her anxiety washing away. Their ideas grew bolder: community gardens, workshops, gatherings to share stories. It was as if each idea brought more energy into the room. But then, a shadow crossed Sarah's heart again. What about the doubts? What about the people who didn't care? Great ideas, but how do we engage those who are uninterested? She asked, voice cautious. "I worry we're just preaching to the choir." "Maybe we need to get creative with how we reach out," Olivia chimed, her energy unwavering. "We could post on social media, set up a booth at the farmer's market. Make it fun." "Yes," Mark added, leaning forward. "We can offer incentives. It could be anything from discounts at local shops to raffle tickets for bigger prizes." Every suggestion felt like a step forward, yet in the back of Sarah's mind, an uncomfortable thought nagged at her. What if their efforts fell flat? "Let us not just think about fun," George offered, his face serious again. "Let us reach out to those who don't usually engage. We need to highlight the real issues affecting us all. The challenges we face every day." His words struck a chord, gathering the room's focus. It was easier to talk about fun and games, but reality often weighed heavier. "Right," Sarah said, her stomach tightening. "We can balance it out. We'll incorporate awareness into our events. It will make them more meaningful. Together, we can do that, Olivia said gently, her eyes bright. Sarah took a deep breath. She looked around, eyes meeting everyone's, seeing the determination and support there. Okay then, let us do this. Let us set a date for our first event and start spreading the word. She proclaimed, excitement bubbling within her. Cheers erupted, filling the space with hope. They began scribbling plans on a whiteboard. Each suggestion added color to their vision, a while longing knocking at the door of change, but just as the energy peaked, Sarah received a notification on her phone. The message was from a local news outlet. Following the recent rally, someone had shared their thoughts on the community group. The headline read, "Idealists or Dreamers, Community Group Faces Backlash." Her gut tightened violently. Sarah? You okay? Olivia's concerned voice broke through. Yeah. Just thinking, she replied, hesitating to share the stirring storm inside her. The worries echoed louder. Would this mockery end it all before they had the chance to begin? They wrapped up their meeting and stepped outside, cool air hitting them like a splash of icy water. Sarah felt her heart racing, anxious about the weight of the path ahead. Are we really ready for this? She murmured. Olivia squeezed her shoulder, as if to say, yes, we are. But Sarah asked herself as they walked home, what would happen if they encountered resistance? The doubts were more daunting than before, whispering in her ear. The winds of change were stronger than ever, and she knew they were about to face more than just community apathy. Would they stand strong against the tide? And looming over them all, she could feel it, an impending challenge that might shake everything they were working toward. With each step, Sarah's mind raced. The message still throbbed at the back of her consciousness, rattling the hopes they had nurtured just moments before. What had started as a dream seemed to teeter on the edge of reality, and the weight of criticism felt suffocating. She glanced over at Olivia, who walked with a bounce in her step, blissfully unaware of Sarah's internal turmoil. The sun hung low in the sky, and the golden light wrapped around them, reminding Sarah of the warmth that had filled the room earlier. Did you see the comments on that article? Sarah finally blurted, voice tight. People think we're just a bunch of dreamers. We are dreamers, Olivia replied, unfazed. And that's not a bad thing. Dreamers change the world. Let them talk. Her tone was firm, but there was an undeniable edge of concern in her eyes. But what if they're right? What if we're wasting our time? Sarah could feel a knot forming in her stomach. The optimism she had felt just hours before was now an aching weight, a delicate balloon threatened by a sharp pin. Hey, Olivia stopped walking and turned to face her. Remember why we started this? It's not just about the talent shows and gardens. It's about coming together, making our voices heard. Yeah, people can be harsh, but we're not doing this for them. We're doing it for us. For our community. Those words rang like a bell. They stirred something within Sarah. Yes, this was about connection, about community, about bridging gaps that too many people ignored. She took a deep breath, settling into the truth of their mission. With renewed determination, they reached Sarah's front porch. There, she paused. Her finger hovered over her phone, contemplating reaching out to the other members. But the nagging voice in her head stopped her. What if I told them? What if I shared how I feel? Wouldn't they think I'm weak? The vulnerability of sharing her doubts felt like standing bare before a crowd, uncomfortable and frightening. Sarah, Olivia gently urged, talk to them. These feelings, everyone has them. If we want to build a community, we have to be real with each other. We can't just share our hopes, we have to share our fears too. That's what makes us strong. Sarah nodded. Maybe Olivia was right. Maybe sharing their collective anxieties could forge a stronger bond. It wouldn't be easy, but honesty was vital in creating a foundation. All right, she replied, her voice steadier now. I'll do it. I'll send a message out tonight. Striding into her home, she felt the hints of a smile creeping back. She opened her laptop, eager to type, to connect with others who shared the same risks, the same aspirations. As words began to flow, a small ding echoed from her phone. Another message. She glanced at it. This one was from Mark. "We can't let the article get to us. Meeting tomorrow at my place to strategize. We need to show them what we're made of." And just like that, the fire reignited. She could see it now: unity, determination, and resilience forming a fierce wave against the criticisms. They would turn the doubts into fuel. Rolling her shoulders back, Sarah typed quickly, her excitement building. They would not fold with the first gust of negativity. They would make their voices heard, not just in joy but in truth. As the night grew deep, Sarah's heart swelled with a renewed sense of purpose. There was still a long road ahead, one that might twist and turn in unexpected ways. But what if the real challenge was just beginning? What if their courage was about to be tested in ways they had never imagined? With thoughts whirling in her mind, Sarah turned off her laptop, staring at the reflection of her determined self in the dark screen. Would they rise above the storm that was looming on the horizon? The next day dawned in a haze of uncertainty. Sarah woke up to the sound of her alarm beeping relentlessly. The excitement of last night had transformed into a swirling mess of anxiety. She lay still, staring at the ceiling, wondering what this meeting would feel like. Would everyone be on the same page? Or would tensions rise alongside their ambitions? The rich smell of coffee wafted from the kitchen, urging her to push through the fog. She pulled herself out of bed, splashing cold water on her face, hoping to shake off the doubts clinging to her. As she padded to the kitchen, sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating every corner of her small living space. There was beauty in the ordinary moments, and she needed to hold on to that. "Ready for today?" Olivia's cheerful voice broke through her thoughts. She was already at the table, a steaming mug in her hands and a sparkle in her eye. "I think so," Sarah replied, avoiding eye contact as she poured herself a cup of coffee. I guess I'm worried about what will happen if we can't bring everyone together." "Hey," Olivia said softly, "worry is normal. But remember what you said last night? We need to embrace our fears." The words washed over Sarah like cool water. She felt grounded in that moment. Yes, they were scared, but they were also ready. Ready to voice dreams and disappointments alike. They made their way to Mark's house, where the small group had gathered. Conversation buzzed, chairs shuffled, and the air was thick with anticipation. Sarah took a deep breath as she watched her friends greet each other with smiles, laughter, and the familiar camaraderie that had brought them all together in the first place. Once they settled down, Mark stood up to grab everyone's attention. "Thanks for coming, everyone. There's a lot to discuss, especially with the article making waves. But first and foremost, let us remember why we started this." His voice was calm but filled with conviction. They spent the next hour tossing around ideas, brainstorming ways to counter the negativity. But each time they took a turn, Sarah felt her heart race. Was her voice really going to matter among the loud opinions? Finally, it was her moment. As the chatter quieted, Sarah stood, her palms sweating slightly. "I've been thinking about the comments, and how they make me feel." She paused, taking a deep breath, "but I realize that it's okay. It means we care. And I think that if we're going to push through this, we need to be open about our worries. We can't just show up with our dreams, we need to be honest about our fears, too." Around the table, nods of agreement and murmurs of encouragement met her words. The air shifted, charged with a new energy that surged through the group. Suddenly, they weren't just individuals hoping to make a change, they were a collective force, ready to tackle whatever lay ahead. Mark spoke up again, "Let us make a pact. We'll support each other, not just on good days, but on the tough ones too." In that instant, Sarah realized they were more than a community, they were a family. With each person sharing their struggles and aspirations, Sarah felt a strange, exhilarating mix of vulnerability and strength. Yet, just as hope wrapped around them tightly, Mark's phone dinged with a new message. His brow furrowed as he read it, and Sarah's heart sank. What could it be now? Guys, Mark said, his voice serious, you need to see this. What could the message possibly hold? Fear knotted in Sarah's stomach, overshadowing the warmth of their moment. Was it more criticism? Or something even more troubling that could shake the foundation they were building? As the group gathered closer, she wondered if they truly were prepared for whatever challenge was coming their way. Would their strength hold against the storm that loomed ahead? Mark's eyes scanned the message again, his face growing graver with each passing second. The jovial atmosphere that had just wrapped around the group like a warm blanket began to unravel. Anxiety prickled at Sarah's skin, and she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What does it say? Olivia asked, breaking the heavy silence. Her voice wavered slightly, revealing the fear they all shared. It's about the article, Mark said finally, barely meeting their gazes. Their essay petition going around. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. What kind of petition? Sarah pressed, her heart pounding. To discredit our work. They're calling for a change in leadership, Mark continued, his voice low. They believe we're not capable of handling the issues we're addressing. This could set us back a lot. The room fell silent. Sarah could almost hear the collective intake of breath. She exchanged worried glances with Olivia, who looked equally stunned. Others squirmed in their chairs, unease settling in as they processed the news. But we worked so hard to get to this point, one of their friends, Jamie, said, his voice trembling with dismay. How can they just dismiss everything we've done? I thought we were making progress, someone else added, a note of despair creeping in. How could they turn on us like this? Sarah felt her chest tighten. Their dreams, their hopes, all hanging by a thread. She didn't want to feel defeated, but the looming threat weighed heavily on her heart. Her mind raced, searching for anything that could salvage the situation. We can't let this discourage us, she finally said, rallying her thoughts. We need to show them that we're not just voices behind a screen. We are a community with real goals and real change to make. We've already bonded with each other, now we need to gather that strength and stand against this. Mark nodded solemnly. Sarah's right. Standing together is how we can fight back. We can counter their claims with facts, with our stories. Let us remind everyone why we started this. As Sarah looked around the room, she saw uncertainty, but also the flicker of determination igniting in their eyes. They were scared to lose what they had built, but they were more afraid of remaining silent. They began to speak, ideas shooting across the table. What if we organized a public event? Olivia suggested, her voice gaining strength. Share our vision, our journey. We invite people to hear us firsthand. That's a great idea. Jamie exclaimed. We could showcase our work, invite the critics to come and see for themselves. The atmosphere shifted, tension ebbed as they brainstormed together. Laughter mixed with serious discussion, and once again, their energy was palpable. They were igniting a fire, one that could push through the doubts threatening to extinguish it, but just then, Mark's phone buzzed again, interrupting the rising optimism. He frowned, staring at the screen, and Sarah felt her breath hitch once more. Guys, it's from the media, he said slowly, his voice dropping to a whisper. They want an interview with us about the petition. Her heart raced. This was at the moment they could turn their situation around or let it spiral. Were they ready for the spotlight? Everyone's eyes turned to Sarah. She had stood before, leading them through their fears, now, she had to step up again. Let us do it, she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor under her skin. Let us show them who we really are. Everyone nodded, the resolve in their expressions signaling they would march into this battle together. But as Sarah led the conversation forward, she couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty looming over her. What if they weren't ready after all? As they formed a plan, each step fueling their courage, an unsettling thought swirled in Sarah's mind. What if the media spotlight brought more problems than solutions? The group continued to strategize and brainstorm, but deep inside her, doubt whispered what would be the price of their confrontation. Every decision could change everything. Would they rise above it all together, or would it all come crashing down? The day had arrived, and the air buzzed with anticipation. As Sarah stood backstage, she could feel both the weight of the moment and the electric excitement of possibility. Today wasn't just about proving the naysayers wrong, it was about making their voices heard. The meeting had birthed a community event where their journey would unfold before their neighbors. A gathering not just to showcase their ideas but to welcome everyone into the embrace of unity that they had begun to create. With each heartbeat, Sarah repeated her mantra, "We are stronger together." Today was a turning point, not only for her but for Willow Creek. As she stepped onto the stage, the crowd, a sea of familiar faces, reflected hope and uncertainty. A warm, orange glow of the setting sun painted the room, creating an atmosphere ripe for connection. "Thank you for coming," she called out, her voice breaking through the murmurs. The crowd quieted, their attention folding around her like a warm blanket. "Today, we're here to share our journey. To show that every one of us matters. Change isn't just about big speeches or grand displays, it's about small moments of connection and understanding." As she spoke, confident words took flight. She shared the stories that represented struggle, hope, and resilience. She spoke of Olivia, the quiet strength of Mark, the humor of Jamie, and how they all banded together, vulnerable yet unyielding. The community began to lean closer, drawn in by the sincerity woven into her words, but then, that familiar doubt crept in. What if the critics still loomed large? Just as she reached a powerful crescendo, flickering shadows along the edge of the crowd pulled her focus to George, standing rigid, arms crossed. The whispers of skepticism echoed in her mind, but she pushed through, determined to rise above it. Her voice grew louder, steadier. "We've faced our share of doubt. We've battled whispers that tried to silence our dreams. But here we are, united, fueled by our collective aspiration. Every voice should count. Let us embrace our differences and grow stronger through them." The ripple of encouragement swept through the crowd, igniting sparks of hope and recognition. Sarah's heart raced as she felt the warm surge of unity course through the room like the collective thunder of a heartbeat. People began to clap, a slow build that grew into a thunderous applause. As she stepped down from the podium to mingle with the crowd, she felt the warmth of their smiles and the glimmer of solidarity in shared glances. Skepticism was still present, but the flickers of trust soon ignited brighter. It was all they needed to push forward. Then, Mark stepped up beside her, his face more serious than she remembered. "We did it, Sarah. But we need to keep drawing in those still sitting on the sidelines." Sarah nodded, ideas cascading. "Let us build more literal bridges, workshops, community projects. We could have an open forum every month to discuss our progress, our challenges. We want them to be involved in every step." Before they knew it, excitement bubbled again, and conversations buzzed through the room. Voices filled the air, laughter bounced off walls, and hope intertwined with determination. Then came George, stepping forward, a mysterious shadow amidst the bright energy. But today, his presence felt different. "All right, Sarah. You've inspired something in this town today. What do you need from me?" Gasps echoed around, but rather than fear, Sarah felt a surge of fortitude. "We can move forward, George, but we need honesty and support for everyone." "I can do that," he replied. With that simple phrase, gazes shifted. The foundation of connection was solidifying in ways they hadn't anticipated. Moments later, the group erupted into cheers. Everyone had taken a leap of faith that day, and in their unity, they created a beautiful tapestry of community spirit. They stood together, hearts drumming a rhythmic promise of resilience. The gathering came to a close, but the energy never waned. Sarah glanced around at smiling faces, and just like that, she felt the weight of doubt diminish. They had taken their first steps together, embarking on an exceptional journey of transformation. As the final rays of sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating faces touched by hope, Sarah felt gratitude swelling in her heart. They weren't just changing minds, they were nurturing a new story for Willow Creek, a story forged from understanding, respect, and gratitude. Let us never forget this feeling. We are here for one another, no matter what comes next, she whispered to Olivia as they watched the crowd mingling, lighting new connections with laughter. Together, Olivia replied, her eyes bright, we'll face it all. With determination shining through the dusk, Sarah knew that the path ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but they would walk it together, embracing every challenge with open hearts, and just like that, a community once pulled apart began weaving itself into something new together. Now, because you've followed this incredible journey, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel to keep up with stories that lift and inspire. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to fuel our mission and feed the algorithm. It matters more than you think. Comment below your feelings about this transformation. We want to hear your story. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this kind of hope and unity. Let us spark a wave of change together.